First of all, thank you guys. I know we're all busy, many different schedules, so to get 8 or 9 of us in the same place for an hour I know is a feat, so thank you for making time. We're here to talk about our hair, and as Black women, I feel like our hair is always up for discussion, whether it's who can touch it, or how you wear it, or how you wear it to work, or what's the color, how often you change it. Our hair is always a topic of discussion. And so we wanted to have a deeper discussion about our hair, what it means to us, what it means to the next generation, how other people perceive it or receive it, and a trend that we're noticing when it comes to a certain hair product and how it's impacting our health. And so before we dive into maybe some of the not so great parts of that, I want to talk about maybe some of the fun parts about it. We have a lot of different ages represented here. So I want to talk about popular hairstyles growing up, right? I see some natural hair, I see some braids, I see straight hair, I see crochet. So let's talk about, and I'll start with you, you're younger. What's the style right now, right? Because you're still young, we're all young at heart, but what's the popular style right now?
I think I see amongst other girls my age is I think a lot of box braids and a lot of different like protective styles, and I also see a rise amongst also the youth is wearing our natural curly hair. So those are some I think the two most like common that I see.
Delina, how about you? Because you have box braids in right now, but was that the style growing up?
It was not. It was more of the layered salt and pepper cuts and the asymmetrical bobs. That was in when I was growing up. But I see more women my age now going with the silk press and moving away from the relaxers.
How about you?
Again, I'm a Gen X kid. We was doing it all. We had French rose babies, ponytails, crimp waves. I feel like, did a good part of the experimenting and stepping out for hair. So again, if it wasn't dyed and layered and asymmetrical, you really wasn't cool in the 90s.
How about you?
Wow, I would say the relaxers for sure, right? And it was the straight look.
Yeah.
We didn't play around a lot with colors or extensions or additive, different styles. I would say not even color, right? I grew up in the 70s, 80s time frame. So I think it was pretty much just the relaxer, the straight look, and maybe every now and then a little crimp going on, but that was about it.
How about you? What was the style growing up?
So growing up, really it was, I had my hair natural, but it's like in ponytails, your natural ponytails, etc. And then it became getting your hair permed. So I had permed hair for a long time. And then after that, decided to go away from perms and then had it, straightened, flat ironed, etc. Still using your natural hair, but still being flat ironed. And then going to my hair being natural now. And so I really like it now. It's so much easier, and I'm just so happy to be able to wear my hair in a natural way. But again, growing up in the era that I grew up in my professional career, people didn't wear their hair really natural. It was definitely permed or straightened. That was the look.
And I want to put a pin in that because we're going to circle back to that, but I want to get to you real quick about growing up, what the hairstyle was.
Well, it was just, you straighten your hair and braids. And then you kind of like graduated to just straight hair, but you went to the salon to get that done. You didn't do it at home. And that's what I grew up to a certain period of time, and then it changed over to relaxer.
Got it. How about you?
For me, I feel like there were 4 steps. You might not be able to see it now, but when I was younger, it was like you had like 4 braids when your mama did them, and then there was like the cornrows, and then I graduated to using like perms as well. I feel like my mom used that a lot on me.
Yeah.
And then the order I got, especially with my generation now, I see a lot of like dyes with natural hair. And there's also like every month there's like new styles, whether it's Fulani braids, box braids. There's a lot. There is a lot. But then now that I'm also getting older, I feel like I'm coming into that stage where I want to wear my natural hair. It's like twist outs, mini twists, cornrows again.
It's hard to keep up. I was
It
like,
is.
goddess braids and butterfly. I'm like,
What do you mean?
I don't know what to ask for.
No, there's a lot.
How about you?
Oh, I would say growing up, specifically when I got into high school in the late 90s, was at sew-ins, right? Everyone wanted straight hair.
Yeah.
So a sew-in, but if you couldn't afford it, like me, you didn't get a sew-in. You didn't have money for a sew-in. So you got them things glued right in on your scalp. And when you took them out, the problem was that it would literally rip your hair from the root. From the very root, and you do it month after month after month so that you could assimilate, so that you can fit in, and you wanted to look like you had the straight hair and the money for it, but you really didn't. And so a lot of black girls, when I was growing up, they suffered extreme hair loss, no edges, all to achieve this look.
You know, one thing I forgot to mention were the Afro puffs. Nobody mentioned the Jerry curl.
Okay. Michael Jackson twist, right?
You also moved into
Right.
like the soft curl. You know,
Right,
wave
right,
move,
right, right, right.
Yes,
I had a quadra curl.
yes, yes.
At
Y'all said
9.
afros.
That's right.
Afros. In my area, we were afros. I mean, that was a whole, yes.
So many different generations, so much versatility too. Like our hair can do so much, can be transformed into so much. But throughout everything that you guys said, I've noticed for the most part, a little bit, not so much with you, but for some of these older women, I feel like there's a moment where we all recognize that our hair may not be as widely accepted in its natural state, as opposed to maybe when we were younger. Just to quickly share, I'm clearly natural. I've actually been natural my whole life. Part of that is because I have an older sister, and a family friend put a perm in her hair when she was 3 without my mom's permission and damaged her hair. And so when I was born, my mom was like, "You're never getting a perm." And I'm okay with that now, but I have to be honest, I felt left out of like the straight hair club my whole life. Everybody went to the salon Sundays and they got their hair permed and they came back and it looked so shiny and I had the 2 puffs. And I'm like, why can't I be part of the club, right? And I think I've grown to appreciate it clearly now. I'm in my 30s, but growing up, I recognized that like I was left out, I was different. Everybody's hair was straight and mine wasn't. And so I wanted to ask you guys, do you guys remember a defining moment or was there a time where you recognized like, my hair in and of itself may not be what's in or accepted?
When you go to apply for a job, you have to fit in to get in. And that's the issue that I found when I was, 18, 20 years old.
Yeah.
That I didn't look like they looked, but in order to get that job, I had to do something different. And so that's what had to happen if you wanted a decent job.
But conversely, if you're the little girl who grew up with hair down in here all your life, people treat you different. I chopped my hair off as soon as I could because I was sick of the attention. Oh, your hair is so pretty. Let me play in your hair. I would get in trouble when I lost barrettes. Why would you send a 6-year-old to school with a hair full of toys and wonder why other little girls are pulling them out? So it was such a responsibility. I was defined by it wasn't Trusted Smart or whatever. Isn't she pretty with that pretty head of hair? It was a pain. I cried. Police came to the house driving down the street one day because I was getting my hair pressed because that's what you did for Sundays because I'm screaming and wailing. So to have to always feel under pressure because you were born with all this hair, as soon as I did, I cut it off. As soon as I could, as soon as my parent wouldn't be mad at me.
I remember mine was more, it was harder to take care of my hair or to fix it when it was up to me and not my mom, right? Getting me ready for school. And couldn't manage the hair, couldn't get it to lay down, couldn't get it in a cute look. So then it became, wanted my hair to be more manageable, I think was the term back then, right? So I think that's what did it for me.
Anybody else?
We just all had different reasons for trying to get in, to fit in. Like, hers, she was trying to manage her hair. I was trying to get a job.
Yeah.
My mom was a licensed beautician, so a different hairstyle every week, whatever she was learning when she was going to school was the norm for me growing up. So when I became an adult, changing my hair regularly was just, it was a part of my outfit. And I remember my first job, 4 weeks in, I'm probably 3 hairdos in, and my supervisor comes to me and she says, "Delina, I searched for you on the Most Wanted because you changed your hair so much." And I was like, Like, that was the first time that someone really made me feel different about my hair. Other than that, it felt like a part of my personality, my wardrobe, and what I was doing. But that time, I knew that employers were looking at my hair and thinking differently. I was like, America's Most Wanted? Interesting. But she was an Asian woman, and I mean, she wasn't from my culture, but it still hit differently.
Yeah.
I think there was just an expectation that, especially when it comes to getting a job, and depending on the type of job you were getting, if you were going to have work in a professional environment, there's a culture in an environment, a culture about what you wear, a culture of how you look, and based upon that culture, and again, you can make a decision as to where you want to go to work. But if you are in depending on kind of environment you're working in, every environment has a set culture. And so if you are wanting to be able to do your job and not have your attention be on how you look, what you wear, etc., if it doesn't go along with the culture, then there's challenges that you're going to begin to face. And it was even, I could just share that there were some situations, it wasn't for me personally, this one, but even if they were dyeing their hair, and we want you to come to work with your hair being whatever your natural color hair. And which meant if you were dyeing your hair, and that if it was blonde and people didn't perceive that people of color or have blonde hair, then we don't want you having blonde hair. So those are the kinds of situations that people definitely faced. But again, I'm gonna go back to whatever the culture was. And I was in very much a very conservative culture, and you looked and you dressed and you act a certain way. And pretty much it was people had straight hair.
I think that opens a bigger question when you say the culture. This is American culture, right?
Whose culture?
Right. So I spend a lot of time in history and dressing up. And what I have learned is that there's a very specific reason why our hair is so important to people other than us. Because historically in America, that has been used to define our caste. We don't think of ourselves as having a caste system here, but we absolutely do. And so our hair, just like the brown paper bag and the color of your skin, has been able to divide us and define our place in American culture. And so I think it's so important that you said, like, people always want to touch it, they want to know about it, because that's how they internally, because the way our culture is set up, have learned to define us. So if you have a straighter grade of hair, you must be something other than this. If you have a natural coarse force, then you must be something of this. So it has provided America traditionally an opportunity to classify us without saying a word. And so it's the roots of racism in America. It's the roots of gender inequality in America, and economic access in America. Those are the things that those are the underlining factors of why our hair is such a business. Everybody praises Madam C.J. Walker and being the first Black millionaires, but Garrett Morgan developed
And
the chemical hair
taking
straightener.
that from the microcosm of America to the macrocosm from a global perspective, I spent a decade traveling overseas and in Asia. And one of the things that I experienced quite frequently, because I always had my hair braided, was, wow, your hair is so nice. They want to touch your hair all the time. And I became afraid to tell people overseas that these are braids, like these are extensions. And some of the people would say, oh, well, you must not really be Black because your hair grows so long. And are you really Black? Your hair doesn't look like the other people's hair. And instead of, in that moment, standing up and saying, look, my underneath all these braids, my hair is beautiful and it's natural and it's coarse and it defies gravity. That's what I told my daughter, your hair defies gravity. Everyone else's hair grows like this, but not a Black girl. Our hair grows like this. right? I didn't do that in that moment because I became a little afraid and I became insecure about my natural beauty. Another thing that I noticed with the international students that I taught in Japan and South Korea and China was that when I walked into the classroom the first time, they would say it in their language, her hair's fake, it's fake, it's fake, it's fake, and they would point and they would laugh and the parents would get uncomfortable. But these are all teachable moments now that I recognize as a woman that in my early 20s, it made me feel like I don't ever want to show my natural hair. It doesn't come down to my knees. I don't have hair that comes down to my back, but it is still beautiful. So it is not only in the United States, but throughout the world. It is a burden for a lot of Black women and Black girls to, sometimes you feel like you're defending who your very natural self is. And what we need to do, and what I inspire other girls and even my daughter to do, is to love yourself just as you are. That 4C is beautiful. Those braids, we're gonna do them purple this week. We're gonna do them red next week. You wanna do a little like this, but it's accepting who we are, loving who we are, and understanding that we are beautiful the way we were built.
And see, that's one of the reasons why I don't dye my hair, because this is natural gray. So I don't have to have red hair. I don't have to have black hair. I have gray hair and I accept it. And that's, you know, I feel like this is me, gray hair and all, you know, but a lot of people want you to commit to a certain way of being. And just like Talia has said, they want to know why she has such long hair. They think she grew that hair, but she paid for that hair, but that's okay. Just like my gray hair, it's okay.
Yeah, I think these are beautiful points, and I think it also goes to, I think it also speaks to the journey that we all have, I think, intergenerationally, that we are trying to unlearn and relearn our relationship with our hair outside of the external environment of the workplace, of what family thinks, of what's trendy in this decade. I think it also speaks to the beauty of unlearning and relearning the beauty of your hair at every stage, at every style, at every press, at every twist, at every braid that, you know, that we decide to have it looking like that. However you think your hair looks beautiful to you, and however you want to navigate your relationship with your hair is enough, and it's beautiful. And to, I think, grow to kind of heal that relationship, because I think that growing up in generations where, you know, our hair is, we always feel pressure to have it styled a certain way, or we always, you know, feel pressure to, you know, change it, or maybe this is too much for this space, or maybe this is too much for this environment, to learn that, you know, my hair is beautiful, however it grows out of my head. And if I decide to style it one day, that's beautiful as well. And if I decide to press it out or do a roller set, it looks beautiful because it's what I decided, outside of what people expect for me to look like.
I totally agree with Tanaya. I feel like, especially now that I wear my hijab out, from a young age, I've always wanted to fit in, whether it's having a perm, having my hair straight. Because when I was young, I had long hair. I don't lie, I did have long hair. And everybody was like, oh my gosh, your hair is so beautiful. But then my mom also liked my hair a lot. So I'm like, oh, but then the older I got, I'm like, yeah, no, I want to cut it now. Because everybody perceived me as somebody who has long hair. And like she said earlier as well, now, when I grew older, I cut my hair, I dyed my hair just so I could look different from what people perceived me when I was younger. And then going into high school, I'm like, oh, everybody has like longer hair, they're wearing like braids out, they're having Fulani braids, they're wearing weave. I'm like, oh, now I want to fit in with them. So there was a time where I took off my hijab and started doing box braids, started doing Fulani braids, and I did it myself. I feel like from a young age, you learn how to take care of your hair. Some people don't, but I did. And it taught me to love my hair, like being able to do it myself. Because I feel like it takes time. It does. Because I feel like I definitely grew muscles from back muscles are like,
Your arms are so
Right.
The back of your head. You got a mirror in the front.
I feel like learning how to do your hair causes you to like, oh, I do love my hair the way it is. And even though I wear a hijab, I still love my hair. I still take care of my hair. And other girls who wear hijab, I feel like they perceive themselves as not beautiful sometimes because they don't fit into other people. But I'm like, oh, you can still take care of yourself. You're still beautiful the way you are. It does not matter if you have cornrows, it does not matter if you have an undercut, you can have a hijab on, you can have weave, you can have a perm, does not matter. As long as you love yourself and you care for yourself, that is what it is.
But what I don't understand, they don't look at your face, they look at your hair. You know, you can have the most beautiful eyes in the world, and they're not even looking at them. You know, just like she's a beautiful girl, and they're interested in what her hair looks like.
I only say that that's because it's an identifier. Without speaking, she
Without
says
saying
so
it.
much about who you are, what you stand for, who you hang out with, you know. And I think that is where society, especially this one, because it's racial, it's gender, it's biased, likes to put us in boxes, right? We cannot be like having the power to do your own hair is empowering. Enslaved people in this country couldn't even do that, right? There was there's a process, combs, there are things that you need that the enslaved people of this country had to make do with doing.
Right.
But we also understood that our braids carry power. We carried seeds over here in our braids. The Fulani braids tell where your tribe is from. That's why we couldn't do them. And so it goes so deep into the communication, the relationship with each other, as to why, you know, people don't see beyond that.
I agree.
They're looking at your tribe.
Yeah.
You know, and then as she's basically, when we were brought over as slaves, we had to cover our hair because it was different than the people that were already here. That and it was something that grabbed everyone's attention. Then it had to be covered so that that would not become perceived as a distraction for anyone else, for whatever distraction that would be. They changed that. But just after even listening to the conversation, I think that's why it was important, and that the city of Columbus did pass, that I was able to sponsor legislation, and along with Shayla Favor, to be able to make sure that in the city of Columbus we can wear our hair any way we want to wear our hair, and that we passed this legislation so it's that the charter has changed that based upon your race, because it's about race, that race, you cannot be discriminated against race and anything that comes from that. So if your hair is part of who you are and your race, you cannot be discriminated against that, cannot be discriminated against, as well as for wearing protective or cultural hairstyles. And it's important because we all can wear our hair however we're most comfortable. And if someone discriminates against you for employment, public housing, or being in public spaces, you can file a lawsuit, and so that you can feel comfortable as to who you are. And that's really important because I think we have come a long way in regards to our hair. We're able to feel everyone up here I know seems to feel very comfortable with however they're wearing their hair. And all this hair looks beautiful, whether you are, no one's here that's bald because again, from out hair, but it's still a look. So whether forever you happen to be bald or you have some long flowing hair, however you want to wear your hair, it is fine, and no one should discriminate against you for you being who you naturally are. And that's really important because all of us want to feel good about who we are, and no one else should be able to harm us based upon how we were born. This is just all natural, and we shouldn't have to fit into someone else's box for us to be able to be a successful in whatever field, whatever we want to do. And we should all feel really good about being beautiful, being black. It's just, that's how that's what I feel. And I'm so glad that we have legislation in our city that's making sure that, you're not going to be discriminated against. And of course, it's happened to women all over the country. That's why you had to have a law. because it's been happening. And there's enough data on this issue about people haven't gotten promotions, they haven't gotten jobs, they haven't been able to live in certain places based upon how we wear our hair. And our hair is based upon our race. That's what this is all about.
And it's beautiful that we've ended up here, but I want to jump back a little bit to how we got here. So many of you mentioned assimilation, whether directly or indirectly, and perms are such a big part of that conversation, right? Can I just ask by show of hands who's had a perm here? Wow.
And can I clarify, are we talking about perm or a relaxer? Because those are two different things, right?
You're right.
Okay.
So I guess a relaxer. I know sometimes. Interchangeably. So yeah, a relaxer. Yeah. Every single. I mean, most. I'm the anomaly. Most Black women have had a relaxer at some point in their life. I was going to ask, what ages? How old?
8, 10.
8, 10.
That young?
Yeah, because Mama was pressing the hair before that.
One side, my mom got this side done, this one was puffed out.
Yeah.
Mom couldn't do it. 80s came PCJ, baby, burn the scalp off my head.
and then it was raining, right? And then your hair's puffy again. Then you're sweating. Then your hair's puffy again.
And then the bill became every 4 weeks you get a relaxer, every 2 weeks you in for conditioning and a treatment. Period.
And let me add in on the relaxer part. I had an epiphany probably when I was around 17 or 18. One of my friends in high school said, "Oh, my roots." And she says, "My roots. You could see my roots." And something clicked in me and I said, "Your roots? Like, this is what I've been thinking this whole time too, that my roots are a problem, and our roots are everything." There were years when we could not study our history, when we were not allowed to read, when we were made to feel less than, right? And now, all these years later, we're scared to show our roots. And that's where that relaxer talk, really hits home, I think, for a lot of us as women on this panel, because we were covering up our roots, covering up who we were, and we are so beautiful. Talking about relaxers and hair issues, there have been studies done where Black girls, I want to say the percentage was around 63% of Black girls under the age of 18 have not showed up to school because they were uncomfortable with what their hair looked like in the morning. And that has so much to do with educational issues, with self-esteem, with being scared to show your roots and being afraid to show who you are. And what we do at Black Girl Rising is we put girls and we place girls at promise in situations where they understand their natural beauty, where they understand that they are powerful, that they are the next generation, that they have amazing and powerful, incredible voices, that they are brilliant and they are beautiful just the way they are. And we don't need to hide our roots. We need to acknowledge our roots. We need to read. We need to understand our history. And then those needs that, you feel this need to have a perm, or you feel a need to assimilate, you feel a need to do something, that all dissipates when you understand who you are.
I agree with that, but I think those outside pressures still exist.
1,000%.
2013, I decided there was no more relaxers for me. And I remember that year coming up for my birthday, my mother asked me, what did I want for my birthday? And my husband said, a relaxer. Because the 20 years we've been together, he seen me fried, dyed, and laid to the side. So this new coil lick was new for him, and he was just like, this is not who I married. And so just even inside my home, I was feeling the pressure to have a relaxer. And I'm like, this is not happening. And that all came to us because my first cousins, we've all been getting relaxers since 8 and 9 years old. And all of the females that I just named all have fibroid tumors. We all do. And we're like, wait a minute. I started doing research, saw a slight association, a correlation to our relaxers, and I just asked the family as a whole, can we as a family stop doing this? As a family. So my grandchildren have never had a relaxer. But it was something that we had to battle internally. Like our spouses were like, what are y'all doing?
But why should we have to do that? I mean, we're human beings, we're women. Why do we have to take that extra step to please a group of people that are non-existent as far as I'm concerned. They don't, support me as far as my living, my working, my any part of my existence. So why should they have a say in how I wear my hair?
I agree, but what would they do have when your husband is your center of support and your employer who is questioning you? Like, these are two people who do have influence in my life. So it was a lot, but I was able to handle it. Thanks to all the research out there, thanks to the beautiful women who are to my left and right, who I can walk in and see them do powerful things and have natural hair, I could boldly step into that. But if I didn't have a council member Tyson or a friend Frazier who boldly stepped in, I might have cowered and fell victim to that relaxer again.
And there's a couple of things that go along with that. One, your hair opens doors. I came in here with my hair. It's a lot. But being, what do they say, this being very mindful, being very demure, it's a thing. That opens doors. When I throw in the pearls and pop in the bun and throw on the skirt, I don't even wear pants to interviews, and that's a misogyny thing, right? It opens doors.
Well, I know
and the thing of, I'm sorry, but the thing about it is we don't control the doors. We trying to get on the other side of it. This is like Sister Ty said, it's a culture of community. What's the culture you're trying to get into? When your culture is straight hair at church, when your culture is straight hair at work, when your culture is straight hair at the club, when the culture is straight hair on TV, that's it. So I can say, and from growing from perms, like I was saying, every 4 weeks, every 2 weeks going, and the empowering, the empowerment that I felt, I had a voice when I went to my hair. People they got used to ponytail person taking those orders. You have a qualitative and quantitative shift within your spirit when you go to natural hair. You can't talk to me the same kind of way. I walk a little different. My back goes straight.
And you need all of that to wear that natural hair.
And you have to have it. I look like Sugarfoot when I cut my hair. It was all over the place. Girl, you don't even know. You know Sugarfoot, right? But it makes you stand within your words. And not everybody environmentally, your job, your husband, your mama, your grandmama. Grandmama was like, baby, we got this flat iron. And you know, because they're not used to you having the power that comes from not being dictated by the hat of hair that I wear. And so it's all about, like Sister Ty said, it's fitting in the culture, but the culture's everywhere.
And I think that's a really good point, because I think it also opens up for a larger conversation that these spaces that have sustained discrimination against ourselves know that there's power in our hair. They know that there's beauty in us carrying ourselves with pride. And so I think that when it comes to these corporations that have been creating these perms and relaxers for decades and decades and decades, they know. It's very intentional. And so I think that also goes back into fighting back against those corporations and those institutions that know that there's power in us believing in ourselves and showing up with our roots out and just in showing up in all that we are, because they know. And I think that there's conversations like this that have so much power because we're acknowledging it. You can't change any system if you're not acknowledging that it exists.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
And so I think that there's so much power in us sitting around today having this discussion, because there's going to be someone that sees us and you're like, wait a minute, I've been thinking that. And here are all these, these young black women and these women that have been in these spaces and that have lived what I'm living through. And if they're on TV and if they're in spaces like this saying that you can fight back against this, that however you decide to identify within your hair, whether it's a roll-set or box braids or Fulani braids, that is beautiful regardless. And so I think that there's so much power and that we're creating change now.
I totally agree. I'm glad tonight to touch base on that, how the companies know. I feel like with us, it's the lack of knowledge, right? I feel like we don't have the knowledge of like what's in the perms, what the perms does to us. I'm glad I have the knowledge now. When I stopped 2 years ago, and that was because I came across a video of somebody saying that perms can cause cancer. Relaxers can cause cancer. And I feel like not everybody has access to that technology to see that perms are actually bad for you, relaxers are actually bad for you. So with us coming together as a panel and letting people know that relaxers are bad, and it gives them that access, it gives them that knowledge that what you're doing is not good for you, stuff that the company that makes the perms does not do. You know, so knowledge is key to many things, and I'm glad that we're here to bring it.
It's either the companies, they're not looking out for us.
Right.
They're looking out for the economical, you know, they're looking for that. They're not looking for our health,
Right.
you know, because they could care less. Because if they cared about our health, they would put what's in the perm on the bottle. You can't even, if it's on the bottle, you can't read it because it's too small. Because I took a magnifying glass to try to see what was in the perm. You can't read it. So they don't tell you what's in it, so you don't know that a relaxer is causing you harm. You think, okay, my hair is relaxed, I feel good, but you don't know how far I feel good is going to last. Because you could develop anything from doing that perm. Now, with me, I've had a perm for a long time, but I've had some health issues too. And I don't know whether they were caused by a relaxer or not, because I don't know what's in the jar. And neither does your stylist. They don't know. They just know that this is what I use.
And they know they need to put some gloves on before they use
Right,
it.
they do. I was going to say then, I hate to say it this way, but I drink the Kool-Aid, right? I mean, I'm not getting relaxers anymore, but I get smoothing treatments. I get highlights. I get my roots dyed. So I'm still doing all the things that maybe the ladies that are natural aren't doing. I don't have any health issues. I have been doing this since I was 10 or 12, you know, with all of the products in my hair, but I'm still in that, not exercising as much because I don't want to sweat my hair out, you know. I mean, I'm still stuck in some of those areas. So, I mean, that's just keeping it real.
Yeah.
You know, it's kind of where I'm
It's
at.
part of the conversation.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
You know, but this is part of the course for America, right? Since the decade of industrialization in this country, America puts out products that kill people nobly.
Period. Cigarettes. Medicine used to have poison in it. Ladies would drop arsenic in their eyes, so they would have this glassed over doughy look. This is par for the course in the culture where beauty runs all, right? But we as Black women are an economic force. These companies are run by multimillionaires. We have power in our economic voice. If we organize and say we just don't buy it, you're not buying your products from along. You know, Black hair care is, what did they, I think they said it's like an $8 trillion business.
Yeah. But I think that lends itself to the education, right?
Right.
Had I had the education early, when I was relaxing my own hair and leaving it on for longer, because I wanted to straight. What was I doing to myself? Burning. It's like I just feel losing all the time. So I don't feel when it gets education. Would have done that to myself and my daughter. I didn't have that education.
And
don't
even
know what
when
you don't
when we do have the education, I'll give you an example. I know myself and a lot of people who I grew up with, we knew relaxers were not good for us, right? So what we would do is a workaround, well, I'm just not gonna put it all the way to the roots. So this way it won't get into my scalp. So it's not, it is about education, yes, but it's also more importantly about how you feel on the inside, recognizing your beauty, recognizing your worth, recognizing that and understanding that there is no group of people or no opinion that is worth your health, compromising your health when you know it's not good for you. So it's a lot of internal work that has to be done to be able to combat when your husband says, he said it to me, oh, well, girl, when you putting them, I like when your hair's straight. I don't really like these things in your hair, but I don't care. I'm keeping these things in my hair because my hair is very healthy underneath. I'll keep this, thank you. But it takes a certain amount of strength, a certain amount of resolve, and a certain amount of confidence, and that is built over time. But when we start with our girls when they're very young, right, 6 and 7 and 8, and building up their confidence and building up just their idea of themselves and who they are, and making sure that they understand their history and recognizing their power and their strength, then they'll get to our age where they're not trying to, I'll just put the relaxer on the tips. No. Begins inside. True.
I think we all
When you know
know.
better, it's like when you know better,
You do better. That's
So
right.
here, so if you start to think about it, and I'm just going to use my age, so because when you start thinking about it, there's just phases of life, and so clearly when we were little, yes, we had the ponytails, we puffs, etc., afro, and all those things. But then you get to a place where, okay, here's the perms come in, or the relaxers, and you're getting those. And believe me, I don't think most of us probably went to black hairstyles, right? And many of them, I don't believe they would want to do anything that was harmful to other black women. So I don't believe that. I just know that they wouldn't. It was more about, this is the style. It's the style. Because if we think about it, anything that you put in your hair that's burning your hair, when you put the relaxer in, but again, it was the time. And that at that time, even though I think most of us had parents that told us, you are beautiful, we love you, you're intelligent, and you're all these things, they weren't necessarily, I don't think, dealing with the hair as, I mean, there were so many other things that we had to deal with. Let me tell you that hair was probably not the priority at the time. But again, we're now, so now you fast forward to where we are today. Where, our education is different. We're educated about our health in a very different way. We now, our children, and because of people wearing their hair in various ways, and they can see you can be in all sorts of positions, because we're looking at, as opposed, all sorts of positions, and then we're looking at your intelligence, as opposed to just thinking about what your hair looks like, because we need you to come in and do whatever work that has to be done. So it's a different mindset. And so our children and our grandchildren, they wear protective hairstyles, they wear natural hairstyles. It is accepted, as opposed to it wasn't always accepted. And I'm not going to say that people still may have some issues and concerns about it in the workplace, but again, if you get discriminated against, you can kind of prove that that's what's happening, there's a remedy for that. But now, you don't have to wear your hair, any certain way. You wear your hair the way that makes you feel the best about yourself, that gives you the confidence to be able to do the things that you want to do. And you're right, when you wear your hair in certain natural ways, you walk into a room, they are, I mean, you walk in feeling different. I mean, and if you can command that space, that means something. And then I think for us that are older, who are wearing our hair natural, we are role models for the younger generation, to be able to say, if we can do it, we want you to feel comfortable about how you wear your hair in any way you want to. We're going to accept you as being a beautiful, black, brilliant woman, girl, to be able to do all the things that, for me, I'm going to say that God created you to do. And this is our natural hair. I'm going to wear it the way that we were designed.
I think India Ari did.
Oh yes.
I think she did. I think she completely
She did.
On what black girls thought
That's
could
right.
be possible. We stopped, and I give her honor and thanks. I hope she sees this. She gave us an anthem. Everybody got an anthem. I'm every woman. Everybody had an anthem, but we didn't have an anthem until I Am Not My Hair, right? Because she gave us a voice. Sometimes I change my hair, sometimes I don't.
That's it.
I think that collectively, black women, black girls, the future, we had a moment.
Not my hair.
Read the tape. Listen to the song. Go back. You know what I'm saying? We could take a verse 2, the third verse. You know what I mean? We had a place we could send them, as opposed to constantly have to justify why. So I am so grateful for that moment in time, because that was a qualitative and quantitative shift and a win for black women. Because everybody knows that song. White people know that song. Asian people, everybody knows that song, right?
Cameramen know the song.
And so with that, I'm sure that has caused a lot of pause in people's minds. Like, she is not her hair. And I already said it. And so we got an opportunity to take a break from that. And so I just want to make sure that I shout that out, because that changed the game.
I agree. I think it also really speaks to really two important parts. I think there's two sides. There's one side of corporations that know and intentionality. Someone mentioned how like you can't read what's on the back of the bottle, so I know that there are some brands they'll have like obviously the chemical formula, and then they'll also have a little explanation of like tocopherol is like vitamin E, or this is a moisturizer, so you know that you can read the chemical formula as well as what it means, so you know. And then I think also, like my mom speaks to this a lot, that there weren't a lot of products on the market that were even for natural curly hair. So the only thing you could buy was a relaxer. You could only buy, you know, straightening sets and permanent sets. And I think that growing up, I rarely saw, up until now, of course, I see a lot of black-owned products that are, you know, geared towards naturally curly hair. But I think there's also like so much power, I think, knowing and reading the labels, and also knowing who was the person behind the brand. And there was a really big, there's a really big hair brand that used to be black owned that sold their company to a larger company, and they changed the formula on the hair growth oil. A lot of women were experiencing a lot of issues. So it's just like supporting the person who's behind the brand and making sure that the person who's behind the brand is someone who, not only if they don't look like you, but they also understand your hair, and they don't put carcinogens and just harmful ingredients in the product. So I think it's really important to know who's behind the brand and supporting black-owned businesses that are geared towards supporting our hair, however we choose to style it.
And can we talk about that? Because there's a conversation about accountability that you led into beautifully, right? We know at this point, like it's not a secret, right? We know what these things are. We can't pretend we don't, we know, right? So is accountability banning it? Is accountability putting a warning on the label and leaving it up to you? What does accountability look like? What should it look like? And do we think that we can achieve true accountability in this space? Do you think that's possible?
I think so. I think it starts with, I think accountability starts within our community. I think so. If we hold each other accountable, we say, hey, what products do you have in your cabinet? I think accountability starts within the community, because if we don't educate each other, how can we collectively rise up and say we don't want to support this brand? So I think it starts with community.
And I would circle back to something Sister Tress said, and it's that buying power. The black dollar is amazing, right? And if we decide that we want to stop purchasing and supporting those brands, that speaks loud. That makes them have accountability. But as long as we have sisters who will continue to support, why should they change? Why? When I'm still making money, right? But when you hit that pocket, they have to take a step back and take true accountability. So, and I have to go back to that education. I can't hold you accountable if I don't know what you're doing to me. So I am grateful for this space so that we can increase the knowledge and then hold those accountability. And I believe we can hold them accountability when we stop giving them our money.
Yeah, and I think it's the exposure to your point too, right? Making it widely known, putting the labels on there, the warning, right? Leaving it, up to the buyer, but make it known, right? I think it's exposing where there is the risks in the improper, ingredients that are in the products that we're using. Make sure that it's publicized.
My mom says the change from the dollar makes the most noise.
Absolute noise. It's the squeakiest wheel. It is the squeakiest wheel.
A hit dollar will always holler.
Every time.
That's right.
Capitalism.
That's
That
right.
is exactly
Capitalism.
what it is.
That's it.
Exactly what it is. Because when we stop using our dollars in ways that don't uplift us, those who are not uplifting us will understand that these women ain't playing no more. They're not playing games. They're educating themselves, they're educating their children, they're working within their communities, and they are going to have to make a change when we stop supporting them.
I want to talk about the future. You've mentioned kids a few times. Obviously, we're looking at the future here. Hi. Right? I think as Black women, we're in a beautiful space when it comes to our hair, right?
Yes.
But it doesn't have to end here, right?
Right.
So what do you guys think the future should look like when it comes to Black women and their hair? When you talk about grandkids or your daughter, what should the future look like? What do we want it to look like when it comes to conversations about our hair? How our hair is received and perceived? What should that look like? What should it feel like?
I think hair autonomy should be a thing. Like my hair is like my arm. It's an extension of me. It's like my leg. It's like my nose. We were in a high school. This girl stormed out because a boy cut her hair. Teacher threw her out because she didn't think that the girl should have been so upset because the boy cut her hair. Like I feel like my hair is my person. And it should be respected as such. And I think that it would be my hope that in the future that's recognized.
as part of body autonomy, because it is so important to my personal journey.
I love how she said that. There's a saying that says your hair is you.
Yes.
We had a discussion with Sister Fran. We had a paper to write, and one of my friends, she wrote a paper about your hair and how for your hair to look good, you gotta care for it. It's like how you take care of your body. You gotta say you love it. You gotta take care of it. You gotta put good products in it. And I feel like this generation, I feel like they're doing that actually. There's people who tells you what's good for your hair, who have tried the products, who have bought it, tried it, told people, oh, it's good for you. And I love that, because that's where I used to get stuff. And with TikTok being banned or whatever, that's where I get most of my knowledge, I don't know why. With it being banned, I feel like people are gonna go outward, they're gonna go do more research. And I love that for others. Having that knowledge, like I said, having the people to guide you. I feel like with the older generation, they didn't really have that like intelligence, like they didn't have the network to search up, oh, what's good for your hair. And like Tanaya mentioned how now there's Black-owned businesses who actually know what's good for your hair. I feel like it's gonna be good for the younger generation, for the upcoming generation. And I love that for us. Love your hair, love yourself.
And you know, maybe if some of the vendors that sell product to us, if they put on the, or tell you this is XYZ, then you'll begin to explore and you'll learn what's in that jar that you're purchasing. And if it's something that's going to harm you, then you don't buy it. And he's not going to buy it because it's going to sit on his shelf. So we need to know what's in it. And if it's not healthy for us, we need to not buy it.
Yeah.
It's real simple.
It's multi-layered, right? So it starts within us, then our greater community, starts with our dollar, it starts with legislation. I think it's a multi-layered approach to getting us to that future. Is that fair to say?
Good conversations in home, like telling my granddaughter, 9 granddaughters, various textures, various lengths, and my granddaughter who has the shortest hair and the coiliest is really tight. She wants braids. She wants to hide her hair all the time. She's only in the 3rd grade. So I'm constantly telling her, you are beautiful. You know, your hair is perfect the way it is, even if it doesn't look like your sister's. And I think that's going to be very important when you see that in your young women as they're growing up and you see those challenges with your hair, because it is an extension of you. And it's one of the first things people see when they come in, because they're looking at your face. So it's just really, we have to talk to our children, the ones that we touch, about loving your hair the way it is, but then also having the autonomy if you choose to do something else. Because their big moms hair look different all the time, right? And you can have that autonomy. But love your hair, love your hair.
Intentionality was something you mentioned. You have to be so intentional about fighting the need to put yourself in a box. Because you're right, even within natural hair, it's a conversation about curl pattern, right? I'll be honest, I have a looser curl pattern, and I'll be very honest. People look at me and they look at my hair first and automatically assume I must be mixed with something, right? Because we're like,
because then
that
you
hair's
get the secondary conversation. Once you get natural, there's a whole nother, we can talk about that on the next chapter, but there's a whole nother conversation that happens, because then they start defining you about how your coil pattern is, how it is when you just use Carol starters,
correct,
or you just use softies and water, like it becomes a whole different way of
categorizing,
and ultimately
in a different way,
dividing us, taking the sister out of our sister.
What's interesting is we're having a conversation about our hair, and I don't see anyone else having these kinds of conversations about their hair. I can't recall it. I can't recall ever there being a forum for people that are not Black and brown are having a conversation about hair. And that speaks volumes.
Well, see, I don't understand the importance of us having this. It shouldn't be an issue.
Well, it is an issue.
I mean, it's an issue, but it shouldn't be a conversation.
It is an issue. It is an issue. It is, and it's been an issue ever since we came over here in 1619. It's been an issue. That's why women had to, again, cover their hair. So it's been an issue. But what isn't an issue It's for anyone else to be having this conversation. And that should make people think. So whoever's going to watch this needs to start to ask, well, why are they having to have this conversation? And we're having it because, again, we've been discriminated against because of our hair. We've had people want to, feel and touch our hair. I can't recall anytime I've ever wanted to go and touch anybody else's hair.
Ever.
I don't even want to go. I'm not even going to go and touch even a black woman's hair. I appreciate how the hair looks, but I have never been like, let me feel your hair. But the opposite is always happening to black girls and black women. There isn't a black woman or a black girl that will tell you that someone who is not of color has wanting to touch their hair. So it's an interest, so it is an issue, big issue. It's an issue for us, and we hopefully through this conversation, I hope it will spark other people to think about not only our conversation and what's in our products and how we do our hair, but to think about why do these black women have to have a conversation around this, because I'm pretty sure that people that don't look like us are not having this conversation.
Well, they're not having this
No, they're
conversation
not.
because we have to have it.
I'm saying not having the conversation about their hair.
Yeah.
That's what I'm talking about.
So that's a whole different.
Yeah.
So that right there is a story. They may be talking about how I want to add some extensions or make it longer, whatever.
Or color
Color it, but I don't think they're talking about being discriminated against it. It's harmed them in any way.
Yeah.
And so hopefully it will make people think about this in another way besides the way we're talking about it. But why is it that am I doing that? I'm saying are other people thinking, am I discriminated against because of that? My wife or my girlfriend or my daughters are having this conversation.
Yeah.
So I'm hopeful that this will spark other conversations and will bring attention to why you should not be treating us any differently based upon how we're wearing a part of our body. Because hair is a part of our body. It's not something that just comes out of nowhere. I mean, it's growing from our body. This is who we are.
There's lots of historic implications, like that's low-key triggering though, because of the fact that in America, and if you're a descendant of a slave in America, your personal value was qualified in a number. You did not have autonomy. So institutionally, people that were not of your same race were able to touch you without question. They were able to open your mouth and look at your teeth. They were institutionally empowered to see you as chattel. And so unfortunately, strong rivers run deep. And so it is implicit bias. It is generational, unchecked racism. It is white supremacy and entitlement at its finest. Because they feel entitled
to touch you.
to do that. And so we have never had the power to impose that on other people. So we have a very strong boundary culturally to let people be. But in this country, we, the descendants of slaves, have never had that autonomy. Which is why it's okay for people to stop us and ask us what we're doing in neighborhoods, because we don't look like we belong. That is why someone that you meet can say, oh, that's so pretty, is that yours? Without thinking,
But see, they hear this at home. So that,
It's systematic, it's institutional, it's part of the culture. Back to what Sister Tyson said, this is the community that we live in. And so it's not only important that we empower and educate our girls to know that this is not only an extension of their beauty, but it's an extension of their self. They need to understand why
The root.
this is happening to them.
Right.
So that they can be empowered to go out with the knowledge of this implicit bias is why this person is asking me this question. So that empowers them to be able to handle it in a way that is going to keep them safe, that's going to honor them, and hopefully educate the person.
That's right.
Any final thoughts? I mean, I think you wrapped it up beautifully, right? This is an important conversation. It's a good conversation, but it can't end here. We can't keep talking in the same circle because we don't live in this circle. We live in a greater community of people who don't look like us, right? So it can't stop here. It needs to be among everybody.
That's right.
Are there any other final thoughts that you guys want to share?
I think remembering that our hair is our crown, and that you cannot carry a crown with your head down.
That's right.
So I think keeping your head high in every space that you enter,
Love that.
no matter what, and remember that we are the only people in the world whose hair defies gravity, and there's so much power in understanding that. And it is sad that, our hair is going to be weaponized and our identity is going to be weaponized, but our hair is our crown. And the world would not be trying to convince us that we were not important if we were not of power. If we were not of power. And so I think remembering that you must take your light and carry it with pride. No matter how dim you may feel, it is bright.
That's right.
And I just think just remembering your power.
if we stop purchasing, they will wonder why, and they will take a look at why are these people not buying our product.
They know why.
Well, they'll know why.
They will say they on to us.
They'll know.
They on to us. They are on to us.
Yes, I intentionally looked at that bottle to see what was on it. You can't see it, and
Even if you could, Alice, are you a scientist? Do you know what it is?
well, if they had it in
No,
those words are so low.
My hope for the future, for the girls who are coming up, who are younger than us, is that they recognize their beauty, and they recognize their power, and they recognize their strength, and they recognize the beauty of the gravity-defying crown on their head. And when we have conversations like this, when they see billboards with black girls and black women in their natural state, and you have women on grand stages with braids in their hair, and going to the Academy Awards with a bald head, who are on Broadway in their most natural, most beautiful state, these little girls are growing up and seeing that I'm beautiful just the way I am.
That's right.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Thank you guys for your time.
Thank you.
We appreciate y'all.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
Anything else we missed, Fran? I think we got it.
That was the most phenomenal thing I've ever witnessed.
Oh.
I don't know.
I don't know.